Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are excited that you're here with us on Co-working Live with Red Worldwide. And we are live in our Zoom studio, and we are also live on YouTube today. So we are excited that all of those who joined us are here. We know some people are joining us on the YouTube side, and they are uh, not in studio, but we're we can't see you, but we know that your presence is here. And so we're excited about that. And you please make sure that you would leave us comments and don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we are growing and we want to make sure that we have access to providing this content to other people as well. And so I guess that's how the algorithm works, from what I understand, that, of course, the more people we can show that we are getting to, then of course the more we can get to people. So that's a wonderful thing. With that said, though, we're going to share our screen because we are going to start today talking. We've been talking about legacy on Tuesdays, and today just so happens to be a Tuesday. And so we're going to really talk about how our finances and our legacy works together. And so, with that said, I'm going to take you guys into a presentation that we have here. That's based on a book that I wrote called Fluency in Finance. And I am very excited to bring this to you today because we have not brought this to the audience that we've been sharing with here on YouTube. And we haven't actually shared this in co-working either. So this is going to be a first of first. And so with that said, I wanted to really, help you guys understand that we try to bring you, content that is not just something that you can get everywhere. Matter of fact, some of the content that we bring, actually, I've heard some people, compare it to content that they would get if they were in school or at college, and so we kind of tease a little bit to talk about the fact that we want to provide you with the opportunity to go to B School, which is business school. And we have what we call B School Central here at Red Worldwide. And so for many people, when they are coming online, they get their notepad and they bring everything out because they want to make sure they're taking really good notes and that they're able to um, get access to the whatever it is that we're providing, in a way that they'll be able to remember it, document it, use it, okay? Because we want you to use it. We don't want to give you content that you cannot use. So it's very, very important for you to understand that, when we're bringing something to you, we spent a lot of time, putting some of this stuff together and doing our research and making sure that what we're bringing is something that will be, usable. And so with that said, fluency in finance is really something that we have spent some time working on. We want people to master the language of wealth and legacy. It's not enough for you to just hear terminology and kind of identify with it, but we want you to be able to, know how to inject that dialogue into your personal financial habits and what it is that you're doing with your family. If are you preserving your legacy, and if you are, how can we help you? And so this is one of the things that we want to actually, find out. So with that said, many people, when they are thinking about, their life's journey, they understand things from a standpoint of what they've experienced in their life and how things work, based on their history and their family's history, what their families have, been used to utilizing. I remember talking to someone the other day and I asked if they knew anything about a trust, and they were like, well, no. I asked if they knew anyone that ever had one. They said, well, no, and the age that they were, I was sitting there going, man, what must that be like, to be in a family where, um, these conversations are not had. And I know that it's not because of the fact that people don't desire the knowledge. Many times it's just that they have not been introduced. And so when we come together in manners like this, where we have lots of people coming from many different places, we don't ever want to assume anything. But the road to true mastery in any domain really begins with understanding its language. And just like a baby comes into the world and they begin to speak, they say very few syllables at first and they'll start to put things together. But over time, they will hear certain words used and they'll start saying what they've heard. And then before long, they'll know what those things mean and they'll begin to utilize them in a manner that really makes them feel like, I know what I'm doing. And so we see that at the 2-year-old stage and at the 3-year-old stage when they're starting to gain what I call autonomy, and they feel like they can take responsibility for their life or do things on their own terms. And so with that said, I want to really talk about, how that looks for us as, individuals. And as we really start learning, how to be more fluent in using the financial terminology and also, moving in all matters financial, we really understand it as a life skill. Financial fluency really is a life skill. It's important for people to know, how to be fluent in utilizing tools to master their own financial destiny. And so with that said, we're going to watch just a little bit of video.
Hey, have you heard of the importance of
And what I think I'm going to do is I need to do a check. I need someone to give me a thumbs up if they can hear what's happening in that video. And if not, then we'll reshare. Can you hear what's happening in the video? Okay, then I think we'll need to reshare. All right, so let's stop and share again. Okay, let's do this again. No worries. We can just start it over.
Hey, have you heard of the importance of financial fluency?
Yes, it's a crucial life skill that everyone should possess.
Definitely. Did you know that financial illiteracy costs Americans over $300 billion annually?
I didn't know that. It's staggering how much money people lose due to a lack of financial knowledge.
Exactly. That's why it's essential to understand the language of finance and its impact on our lives. Have you ever read the ebook Fluency in Finance by Patience Rose?
Yes, I have. Her book helped me understand that financial capacity and its significance are key to financial growth.
I like how the book uses case studies to illustrate the importance of financial fluency. It makes it relatable.
Yes, Susan's journey from confusion to clarity is a great example of how anyone can learn financial fluency.
I also appreciate the interactive activities that help us reflect on our financial history, current state, and vision.
Definitely. It's important to take stock of where we are and where we want to be financially.
The 3 pillars of money, wealth, and legacy are fascinating concepts. I like how the book breaks them down and shows their interconnectivity.
Yes, John's discovery of his family's financial legacy is a great example of how wealth and legacy are connected.
The book's focus on expanding financial vocabulary is also helpful. It's empowering to know and use financial terms effectively.
Agreed. Lucy's transformation from feeling lost to making savvy financial choices is a great example of the power of financial literacy.
Overall, Fluency in Finance, Mastering the Language of Wealth and Legacy does an excellent job of illustrating the importance of financial competence and providing practical ways to improve our financial knowledge.
Yes, it's a must-read for anyone who wants to take control of their financial future.
Okay, so if you want to get that book today, you can actually grab that QR code and utilize it to get to the Fluency in Finance page on my book website, and that will give you access to the book today for free. And so this will be a lot more relevant for many of you when you have the opportunity to have the ebook, and you can go back and look at this video and see some of the things that you've learned there. So I want to make sure that you have that, because I think it's a really good tool for, helping you to become more fluent yourself in financial matters. So the road to true mastery in any domain begins with understanding its language. And I know I said that a few minutes ago, but I have to say it again because I want you to get this. When we're talking about money, we really are talking about an expression of value. And because money is an expression of value, it really is a language. And when you are moving about in financial matters, many times we think that people have a problem with money, but we've come to understand that they don't really have a problem with money. They just don't speak the language of money well enough to participate in the wealth system. So we see here our just a little video of people speaking a language, and they're using their hands to do so. And this is American Sign Language. And generally speaking, when people are standing and watching people communicate in this way, they feel like, well, we're kind of out of the loop. We don't understand what they're saying. If they don't speak, American Sign Language, or they don't speak it well, then they missed many things in that conversation. Well, I want you to take that and really, follow that through with actually speaking the language of money. Many times people are moving about in the world of commerce, and they're doing different deals, and they're moving about in a certain way. And some of the people that are watching them could feel a little lost because they don't speak that language as well as the people who are moving around in that arena. And so based on that, they don't feel like they, have the capability of doing much because they don't speak the language. I remember when I was very new to understanding what stocks and the stock market were all about, and, and some of the concepts of having, different types of, markets and things of that nature, it just didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand the difference between a company that was publicly held and privately held. And, it took a while for me to really venture out into any of those arenas to even, see what those things meant. Yes, I looked in a dictionary, but I mean, to really understand how they worked, what Wall Street was all about. And for that matter, to understand how I could participate, or if I could participate. That was just a really interesting time in my life. And so when we're looking at this, I want to play this video one more time because I want you to see these people are truly communicating. They are involved in a conversation, and they both understand each other. They're, very into it. And that's how it is when people are communicating in financial matters. Many times they're moving and shaking and making deals. And, I talk a lot about, how some people have been able to purchase property without cash. Okay. And they've moved other things in the world of commerce that were expressions of value. And in moving those other things that were expressions of value, they made a particular transaction occur without ever pulling out a checkbook, or for that matter, moving any money out of a bank account. And so for a lot of people, that kind of concept is just like, well, how does it happen? I've seen people use cars to purchase things. I've seen people, use intellectual property to purchase, or for that matter, they've moved things around in a way that was, from one custodian to another custodian, and never once pulling out a dime from their bank account. And so there are many times when these types of things happen. We just have to understand that, our financial roots and our current situation is key to our business growth. And so when we kind of gain that understanding, then it causes us to want to dig in a little deeper and learn a little more, about what financial roots are all about and how they work. So let's kind of take a look at these roots here. We see, some, fallen things all around, but we also see a tree that's there, and, and that tree's roots are a little bit exposed, but we know that they probably go down pretty deep just based on what we're seeing in terms of what the age of this tree looks like. And And I really want you to kind of get a better look. So let's kind of look at this a little bit different, from a different perspective. When you're seeing this, you have to understand that strategy really is your structure. That tree that was strategic and how those roots were planted in there, and it was not falling over, okay? Because the roots were deep enough to hold it up. And so many times when we are looking at our financial structure, we have to be thinking about strategy because our strategy is in our structure. It really is. I want to kind of help us unpack some things. So let's look at our financial history. Let's look at our financial history and see, how do we recall our first significant financial decision? What was it about? Was it something that we purchased or something that someone gave to us? Did we invest something? Was it something that we were saving? Is there a situation in which we really are looking at the fact that these things that have happened to us with money really are things that our parents imposed upon us or someone else in our life? I remember one of my very first, or I should say fondest financial memories is when my grandmother gave me a bunch of coins. I mean, they were like coins that were very, very old. Some of them went back to the 1800s, and I had no idea the value of those coins. And I, not understanding what I had, I got into a financial situation when I was still pretty young. I was early in my 20s, and I went to a coin shop with those coins. And I tell you, when I think about it now, I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe that I did that, because not realizing, the value of what I had, not understanding that I needed to try to hold on to those. There were lots of things I could have done, to get a few dollars to make sure that I had whatever it was that I needed or thought I needed at the time. But to offload the coins that my grandmother gave me was not the thing that I should have been doing. And no one, really was there for me to help make that decision. I didn't ask anyone, and there was no one around me, but I didn't understand the value in the coins. I sold them, and I did get about $600 for the amount of coins that I had, but I came to find out later that that was not nearly what I should have gotten. And at the time, we didn't have the internet, so I couldn't really do some of the research that, we're able to do now with regards to the coins. I could, go to the library, which is what I did. And I looked up everything that I thought, was the most important thing for me to be looking up. I looked in the encyclopedia, and I just didn't have a handle on the financial language and the concept of value. That was not something that was really instilled in me at that time. And so unfortunately, those coins are long gone now. However, the lesson is still here. And so I'm sharing this with you because our past often shapes our present financial habits. By understanding our financial roots, we can appreciate our current behaviors and our beliefs, and it makes it easier also for us to adapt and to change, to pull in some new stuff if the stuff that we've been using is not the right stuffing for the pillow. Okay, you have to be able to assess your current financial health. How do you feel about your financial situation right now? Are you stressed? Are you content? Are you optimistic? Are you indifferent? I really want you to take this moment to kind of write down some of your most significant financial obligations or responsibilities. And if you have a moment, and you can pause this video, if you're watching it later, I want you to take the time to note next to each one of those obligations and responsibilities, whether it's a source of stress or satisfaction for you, because this is going to be liberating, as we're going through these kinds of exercises to help you understand some of what you might be experiencing. I came to find out that for the most part, there have been times in my life where finances was a significant part of stress in my life. And it created a whole situation, I can say it that way, around everything else. I entered life every day for many years thinking about how I was going to transact some particular type of business in the day so that I could make sure that my finances were not in shambles, and unfortunately, when we start thinking about capacity and what financial capacity is, many of us manage our money based on what is due, and everything else in and around that. And so I want you to be thinking about this today. Okay, have I put myself in a position where all of my financial decisions are a source of stress? Or are they a source of satisfaction, knowing that something, can be done to take care of those particular things? By identifying and reflecting on our current financial health, you can get a clear picture, sometimes of your starting point and the road, to your financial fluency. How do you get to the place of where you need to be so you can understand, what is really crucial, and how do you set some realistic goals, and how do you wrap strategy around those goals to make things happen? Visioning your financial fluency, you really want to be able to see it. What does it mean to you? And is it having a particular amount of money in your savings, or owning, some specific assets, or achieving a particular lifestyle, or something else? What are these things that are causing you to be able to see finances in a particular way? I really want you to list some things down, put down some skills or knowledge areas that you believe are essential, for your financial fluency. What is it that you can do? And just list three. You don't have to give me a whole page, but just list three. What is it that you can do, okay, based on the knowledge that you have, or knowledge that you can gain, okay, that could help you to put things back on track if you're not on track, or to keep you on track if you are, or for that matter, to help you build up momentum on the track. Okay. Sometimes we currently are lacking in the skill set. And so we want to make sure that we can pay attention to some things that, can really help us move there. Let me give you an example of what I did personally. I got to a certain age and I realized that I had put a lot of things on hold, because during the time I was raising my kids, I made a decision that I was not going to go back to school to pursue my graduate work any further until they were adults. That was a decision that I made. I was in graduate school getting a doctorate degree. I was actually at the end of my master's program when I was diagnosed with cancer and I had to come out of school. But I only had the one class left. And so I found a school that would allow me to continue the program there and take that one class and then get right into the doctorate. And I was going to school, getting my doctorate degree. I was also taking a few classes at another school, and I was taking my kids to class with me, which was kind of interesting. But because my babysitting situation fell through, I had to put them together and let's go. Because at the time, I didn't have the resources to manage getting another sitter, for that hour of the day. So I made the decision to just, okay, here we go, grab the toys, put them in your little briefcases, because they had these little briefcases they used to carry, and they had toys that they put in it. And on to class we went, and they sat in the back of the class and they were very quiet. My instructor was so impressed. She was like, oh my God, your kids are just amazing. They're sitting back there and they are attending to themselves while you're here in school. And she thought that was the most amazing thing in the world. But when I got home, I started thinking about it. Is this the most amazing thing in the world? Or is this something I could do at another time? And I looked at what I was doing in my life at that moment, and I realized that I could get some education, that would allow me to make a little bit more money, but I also could wait and continue doing what I was doing and add a service or two to my service portfolio that would increase my financial performance. Okay. And also increase the bottom line so that I would have more money to take care of my children. But spending the quality time with them at that time in their life was my, it was an honor for me to do it. And I made that decision. So I had to make this comparative reflection, right? I had to reflect on the things that I knew would be in my future and that I could do, when I got a little older, or, I should say, a little closer to my freedom point, can say it that way. And that's what I did. I made that decision. And in doing that, I planned out what I would do when I could do it, when my children were old enough. And based on that, it was really a wonderful thing because at 50, I decided, okay, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to go back to school until I pursue these particular degrees that would be able to help me help my clients better and position, our company better. And all of those things started coming to me, to make those things happen. And so with that said, I made a decision that took me to a different level. And so let's look at this other video and you'll.
I have a small business, and I'm worried about the new laws and regulations. What can I do to protect myself?
Well, the first thing you can do is transition from a sole proprietorship to a structured entity like an LLC or a corporation. It offers more protection against personal liability and tax inefficiencies.
That sounds complicated. How do I do that?
It's not as complicated as you think. I did it for my business, and it was a game changer. You just need to file some paperwork and follow specific guidelines.
Are there any benefits to doing that?
Absolutely. Structured entities offer more opportunities for growth and expansion, better access to funding, and better protection of your personal assets.
How do I know which structured entity is right for me?
It depends on your business goals and needs. For example, if you're looking for flexibility and simplicity, an LLC might be the best choice. If you're looking for more formalities and investment opportunities, a corporation might be a better fit.
Thanks for the advice. I'm going to look into it.
You're welcome. Remember, making the switch isn't just about compliance. It's about protecting your dreams and building a legacy that lasts.
So as we see in this particular video, I talked about how I made a decision, to do some things in my business, okay, that would allow me to make a little bit more money, but also give me the ability to spend more time with my kids. And one of the things that I did is I had decided to choose a structure that made better sense for what it was that I was doing at the time. I was kind of operating as a sole proprietor, and I thought, well, you know what, am I doing this? Because I'm not really making that much money and it's not really affecting my taxes that much for me to stay a sole proprietor, but I didn't realize that I was leaving money on the table, okay, because I wasn't able to, utilize the Schedule C at the level that I would have been able to if I had been an LLC, or for that matter, I could have become a corporation based on what it was that I was doing at the time and had better access to raising money to grow the company. And that was a decision that I made at that time to make my company a corporation. And in doing so, it gave me the opportunity to take on some investment capital, which was an amazing opportunity. And I grew that company alongside of the school that I was running, and the church that I was pastoring. And in doing that, I had an amazing ability to an infusion of capital so that I could provide a better lifestyle for the children. And I got a chance to, at some point, stay home with them every day so that they, had me right there with them. And true enough, I did have to go after a certain hour, to the office and, do different things, to run the business. But for the most part, I was there during the day, and they got an opportunity to experience a different me than they would have if I had made the decision to continue working, and going to school and all the other things that I had been doing at that time. And so I just wanted to encourage you to take a look at, and again, this is a comparative reflection. You're looking at your own financial future. You're looking at what you do every day and thinking about your current habits and your challenges that might be keeping you in a position where you're not able to take advantage of the three pillars: money, wealth, and legacy. Because one of the things that I have come to understand is that we have to adapt to the ever-evolving business landscape. Sometimes we're in a situation where things are changing, and they're changing very rapidly. Sometimes they're changing because of what's going on in our country or even in other countries. There may be wars, there may be, changes to the amount of money money that is available to people in different places. And so as a result of that, we do things here differently. Sometimes there's a problem, with securing our borders. And so things are made different for the businesses, based on what we're having to do to make sure that the government is aware of who's doing business in America. So all of these things are something that you need to be aware of. And I need you to just pay really strict attention to the concept of when you're able to distinguish between, the concept of money, wealth, and legacy as expressions of value. You can build a strong foundation for financial success and fluency. You can adapt better, when you have the mindset to understand what those things are all about. And I call it a symphony, the symphony of value, money, wealth, and legacy. And when we're looking at this, and I speak of it from the musical terms because I am a very musical person. Some of you guys who know me personally know that I have a few instruments that I play, and I sing, and I write, and I have a degree in music, and I just absolutely love music. So when I'm able to take something like music and use it as an analogy for the concept of finance, it really is a kind of a fun thing. I call the grand orchestra of life, okay, these these three, I call them the grand orchestra of life, because of the fact that they are all instrumental in having us a sense of harmony as we craft our perfect melody of value. Money, wealth, and legacy, when they're all in the right position in our life, they do tremendously cause us to have harmony, and it makes it so that we don't end up in a situation where we don't have all of the pieces to make our families move forward the way they should. Each of these three, okay, are irreplaceable. You can't have money and not, have it inure to wealth at some point. And because if so, then you'll end up in a situation where you're not able to take care of yourself. In the same way, you want to be able to pass something or build something that you can pass forward. And so that's where legacy comes into play. And so they're just irreplaceable. They are not something that, you would want to live your life without. They're unique and they have their own depth and their own significance. And but when you intertwine them, guided by some of your strategic decisions, then you'll have the tune. Okay, you'll have the tune. And then it's a tune that enriches your life and it etches, an everlasting impact on the world at large, and when we are in a situation where we can take care of ourselves and we don't have to depend on someone else's taxes being paid to take care of us, or when we're in a situation where we really can harness our own financial decisions because we've preserved our own wealth and we have something that, we don't have to die to use. Okay. And I'm just saying this because, and I'm not meaning to be crass or anything like that. I am saying that many times we move past opportunities to utilize, some of the strategies that will help to make our lives more comfortable, to give our children and our family members a quality of life that they deserve and desire. And so it's so urgent that we would move in this realm to create this symphony of value, having your money and being able to speak the language of money appropriately, having it inure to a legacy, and have that be created, per the wealth that you are accumulating from the activities that you do every day, or from the activities that might be running while you sleep, right? So I speak in the book about this money being the opening note with limiting tones. Okay. And this is really true. It really is. It's the immediate expression of value. Cash is, right? A medium through which we exchange goods and services and even ideas. It's the medium of exchange. That's what we call it. The medium of exchange. When we go to the grocery store, we take $500 and we'll go and buy $500 worth of groceries, meaning the value of the groceries is equal to the amount of cash that we have, unless we have a few coupons. But you're not going to get $5,000 worth of groceries with $500, which is the reason why you have to become more fluent in speaking the language of money so you can learn how to convert money to something else that's going to unpack, or I should say, unpack the potential, of your cash, give you more capacity with your cash. So I mentioned it many times. Some of you guys have been in seminars where I've talked about this. Others of you have been in my classes when I've taught it, that you should always be looking for something that has a higher growth potential than the cash, meaning that you can actually take the cash and convert it or translate it to some other expression of value that unlocks the wealth potential. I mean, cash being used to purchase a property can unlock equity, and equity in all intents and purposes, it has it holds value. It is an expression of value. And when you convert the equity back to cash, you're going to always get more than what you put in, unless we're in a recession that doesn't allow and your property is underwater. So then your strategy might be to hold it a little bit longer so that you can actually continue to pay and end up with more equity as things begin to sell and the market corrects, because the market does correct. And when it does correct, then again, your cash that you put into it will now begin to unpack again the ability for it to be worth more than what you put in. The same with if you're purchasing insurance and you're purchasing permanent policies that have a face value. I talked a little bit about that in a little earlier. You could have your cash terminate into something that actually begins to grow and is growing at a much more rapid pace than the market growth in other instruments or in a bank account. And so now you've taken $500 and you're putting in a certain amount per month, and that is growing at this rate that you can then borrow against the cash value of the policy and utilize that when you have an emergency, or if you have a specific, need. Maybe you want to invest it in a business and you plan to, you're going to put it back over time, so that you can bank on yourself as opposed to banking at Bank of America. Just saying. There are many other tools that you can use. I mean, stock can be used in the same way, because when the market is great and your stock is growing, you have the ability to cash out if you need to, or for that matter, you may have the ability to, continue to allow it to grow so that you can have what you need to put into your family's coffers at some point, so that you have more than what you put in. Again, it's unlocking the wealth potential of your dollar. You can do the same with cryptocurrency. You can do the same with art, antiquities, and you can utilize cash to inside of intellectual property, or you can actually start a business with it, and that business can grow in value and give you back way more than what you put into it. So there are lots of ways that you can utilize cash and convert it to something other than cash, meaning some other expression of value, and unlock its potential. So when we say that money is the immediate expression of value, it is the lowest gross possible, okay, in terms of value, and when you're dealing with the denominations of money. But in the meantime, that money can be converted, and it can be or translated to another expression of value, which unlocks its potential. So consider money as an opening note for the symphony, setting the rhythm and the tone for what's to follow. If you're going to look at it that way, it's the primary straightforward note, signaling the immediate desires of our lives. However, we understand that money is not the only expression of value. And when used properly, you can transfer or correlate, a value in some other expression, and decide that you want to convert your cash to that particular thing. And it gives you this ability to now have more liquidity, right? Okay, so When I say have more liquidity, that liquidity may not come out until, of course, you exchange the money back from whatever you put it in back into cash. So I do want you to understand that. But the liquid potential is what I'm talking about. You put the money in the house, you pull the equity out. Okay. You put the money in a policy, you pull cash out. You put the money in a stock, you can pull out the cash. So, I mean, there are ways for you to gain access to the cash or not. Sometimes, as I spoke of before, you could actually leave it where it is and use that to make your exchange if you're going to do so. Sometimes people trade stock. Okay. And in trading stock, you can actually gain access to a better position in the market, and so then thinking about that, as I talked about, I know of people that trade cars and trade airplanes and all kinds of interesting other assets to get to the next asset that they're trying to get to. Some people have purchased businesses with stock of another company, so it's very important for you to understand that as you become more fluent in the use of these strategies, that these strategies are not something for you to just look at and say, wow, I want to be that one day, or I want to do that one day, but delve into it, learn more, and find out how you can participate today, right? I mean, we want to understand how can we use the ability to express value through money. Now, what about wealth? Well, wealth is the melodic progression of amplified potential. I look at wealth in this way because, I remember thinking when I was a child, I was really young, and I told my mom, I said, when I grow up, I'm going to have a housekeeper, I'm going to have a maid. You work too hard and you spend too many hours doing things that somebody else could do so that you could do the things that matter most. I mean, I was really young to have that kind of thought process. And I remember my mother bringing it up to me several times as I grew older. She said, you said you were going to have a housekeeper. So when I got my housekeeper, she was like, I remember you were 6 years old and you told me this, that you were going to do this. She says, but now I understand because I had the housekeeper, I could spend time with the kids. The housekeeper was doing what she needed to do, and then I could take the kids and do what I wanted to do with them, because I worked hours to be able to afford the lifestyle that we had at that time. And I didn't know a lot about, how I could, exchange what I was doing for a different type of lifestyle by just, going into business for myself. But I knew I was a teacher and I made good money as a teacher, and I could afford to have a housekeeper. And she actually operated as an au pair. And so that meant that she took care of the kids when I was at work. And then when I came home, she continued to clean house so that I could spend some hours with my kids in the afternoon when I had more energy and they had energy and it mattered for them. Until I graduated to the point of where I opened my first business and I was able to be at home with them. But it was so interesting to me that having conversation with, some of my girls, I talked to them and they were able to express to me how they hated that I was working from home because they didn't think that, you are working from home, but you're still working. They didn't understand that somebody had to do that in order for us to be able to eat. So as they're now adults, they're like, you know what, I'm so glad you were home. And I'm so glad that, I was able to see, how you did that, because now I've got to figure that out for myself with my kids. And it was a choice. At that point, their father wasn't in our lives anymore. And so I had to make some serious decisions about how I was going to infuse myself into their life so that I could be a part and not be able to look back later and say, you know what, I missed so much. I still missed a lot, I feel, but I don't think I missed nearly as much because I understood at some point that I needed to create a lifestyle by understanding how wealth worked and what I needed to put to work for me so that I could have more time to spend. Because the one thing about money, you can always get your money back, but you can never get your time back. And that's something that I had to really grasp at a young enough age so that I could make it worth something, make it matter for them. So at some point I homeschooled. So I was right there with them during that time when we were doing schoolwork. I was spending the time. And yes, I had to go away from the house to do a few other things in the afternoon, late afternoon or evening, so that I could make some money to make sure that we could continue that lifestyle. But I want to tell you that the times that I was there, I was present. Now, why am I sharing that? I am not tooting my own horn. I am saying that this is something that you can do. This is something that is so important that your children need to be able to experience a lifestyle that's filled with wealth, that you can preserve wealth. And wealth is not just about an accumulation of cash, it's about how you position and allocate the cash so that you can use what's most important at the time that it really matters. Wealth is an accumulated expression of value. It's representing assets and resources we amass over time, transcending the limitations of raw cash. When you have wealth, it makes things available to you that are not available normally, And so let's listen to this metaphor, okay? As our melody unfolds, wealth evolves as the diverse notes, creating a captivating tune. It's the elaboration of the initial note. Remember, I said money was the initial note signifying the value? Well, wealth is the elaboration of that. It signals a journey of growth and expanded potential. When you have wealth, then you can begin to realize the potential of your cash. It gives you the ability to purchase properties and purchase some of those assets that I talked about, the other expressions of value, to convert your cash into something that's actually going to unlock for you the ability to use more of the cash that you have and in a way that really makes sense over the long haul. Okay, so when we're expressing value through wealth, this is going to be like a progression in a song. It accumulates and grows, but how does it do that? Well, converting it into real estate, in maybe converting it into a privately held company, or maybe even thinking about diversifying. So this is also a part of your wealth portfolio, preserving the wealth portfolio. And I mean, you have to be able to have more than one thing working for you at a time. If all of your eggs are in one basket and that basket tips over, okay, and the eggs crack and break, you want to be able to have another basket or two or three. So I'm saying that diversify. Don't just be looking for one thing to do. Yes, I have to tell you that in my experience, because I grew up with parents who had more than one egg and more than one basket. Okay. And it was kind of funny because my mother, she was a seamstress, but she worked a job every day during the time when she was well enough to do so. And she also had some other things. She sold Avon at one point. She sold Tupperware, and she also sold Trichem, which was a liquid embroidery, because she was an amazing artist and a graphic artist, I can say. And it was kind of interesting because, seeing her with all of these different irons in the fire, and then still we do garage sales. We had all kinds of things, bake sales, all types of things that we did in our household, for not just the financial performance or we have this revenue just constantly coming in, but to bring in a revenue so that something can happen with it. Because I remember my parents banked at Bank of America, and they had a checking and a savings. And I remember that because I would go with my mother to the bank. I would go with my father to the bank, and we would go to the bank and they would be transacting banking business. And I was nosy and I wanted to know, what are you doing? So I was asking questions. Now, what I didn't think to ask though, is that, I found out later in life, because my father paid for my schooling with stock. He went and liquidated his stock and paid cash for my undergraduate education. And I was sitting there thinking about, well, when did we ever have that conversation? What is stock? How does that work? And, how did you have $40,000, in stock? I mean, where did you get the mindset to even know what to do, what stock to buy? And, for that matter, what stock did you buy that accumulated that much cash? So this was something that I had to come to understand as a student in college, that I thought I knew my parents, and I didn't really know everything that I needed to know about them and how they operated financially. They had things at some point, they had some things in order that I just didn't have any clue that they even had. I knew that we had a motorhome and a boat, and and I knew we went on trips and we did a lot of family things. I knew that we had bikes, and that when we got old enough, we had cars, and that some of those cars are paid for in cash. But I didn't understand how they got there from their incomes. How did they get to that point? Well, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about the concept of wealth preservation. We're talking about diversification, because they had money in several places. I remember learning that they had property in California City that they had purchased. And I remember learning also that they had some other, assets that I had, just didn't realize that they had. And at some point, they liquidated those assets so that things could happen. There were things that they did so that we could take trips and, go across country in a motorhome, or go, fishing on the boat, frequently, okay? Or for that matter, take these excursions up to Northern California from Southern California, or take a trip and take friends of ours with us. There were lots of things that we were able to do. And I just didn't see us as being very wealthy because it wasn't talked about what, in terms of what wealth was and how wealth presented in a life of a family. There were other people in our neighborhood that never went out of our neighborhood. Okay. And there were other people in our neighborhood, even though they had nice homes and, seemingly nice cars, that the children didn't get a chance to participate in anything that really caused them to benefit from that wealth. So when we're looking at this concept of expressing value through wealth, I want you to be thinking about every layer that you have to add a value expression to in order for your wealth preservation to be what it's supposed to be. There needs to be layers. Of course, you need to have reserves, right? Something that's there so that your family has a fallback if something happens. Someone gets sick and they cannot work, or if something happens where there's a pandemic, okay, and nobody can work for a period of time. What is the fallback? What do you have in place? What are your reserves? And then you want to be thinking about, okay, the next layer. Okay, what is your revenue look like, your performance? How much are you bringing in, and from where are these streams of incomes coming? Is this only something that's coming from your regular job that you have every day? Or is this something that you're able to make happen because you have these streams that are working while you sleep? Okay. And there are those that can do so. And if you don't know what those types of things are, just keep watching on this podcast. We'll talk about them. Or you can come to, redworldwide.org and set up an appointment, because we know how to help you find other income streams that can help your family's performance to be what it should be. Then the other thing that you want to be thinking about is that other layer, that layer that actually gives you the ability to thrive. Okay. And what is that? How do you get beyond, just the bare revenue that you need to take care of the family and the reserves that you need in case of an accident or incident? Okay. What is that next level? Well, the next level is what you do to create your legacy, the broadened step, right, that you are going to have. And we call this the crescendo, the echo of endless crescendo, to be exact. What is it that you're going to be able to do to create an enduring expression of value? And that's where you are able to build so that your children's children have the ability to have something to begin to build with. And so this is something that you have to be thinking about. How do you establish an enduring impact? What is it that you can do? I call this, one of those cherished songs. We call it old school music. Some of you guys might know about that old school. Okay. It's really the essence or the ideals or the ripples that you've initiated, and that actually are growing, and it's spilling over into this pot that's beyond just your reserves, that takes care of your family if something happens. It's the part that, when a grandchild comes and says, Grammy, I want to go to college, you say, okay, what college? Not, okay, well, let me see what we can do to help you make that happen. Have you filled out a financial aid application? You want to be in a position to sow, if you can, into your own seed. And that's something that is a concept that we really have to begin to think about. How do we transcend what it is that we've done already? What is our transcendent value? What can we do beyond the tangible assets that we have, so that we can capture the intangible, that amount that's going to be there, so that if one of the kids comes in and they say, what, Mom, I really think I want to open a business and it's going to take me about 50 grand. I'm thinking about going to Chase to get a loan. And you could just say, hey, let me weigh in on that. How much did you say you needed? How much do you have? Okay. And being able to go into your coffers and make something happen. And those things happen when you are able to begin to create this crescendo, and so we can talk about some ways that you can put it into action. And this will be what we're going to have to leave this for today because we're, almost over time. But thinking about your money, your wealth, and your legacy, this lifeline analogy, how can you put something into action that would, help you to enact what I've talked about already? So we're going to reflect on our family's history. Are there items or stories that represent money, wealth, or legacy in your lineage? Jot that down and see if you can discover things that, just like I said, I didn't realize that my parents had so much together. I thought that we were really in a poor position, especially considering how some things happened, toward the end of my parents' lives. I just didn't realize. But as I'm thinking about it and have been going back to explore, there were some things that went very awry, towards the ends of their lives that, did not allow for what it was that they had planned to have happen to come to full fruition. Yes, some of it did come to fruition, and I was grateful for the amount that they were able to sow into me to go to school. And for that matter, my mother weighed in with $2,500 here, $5,000 there when I was, going through my go through, and really trying to build my family and not understanding what I needed to do to make some things happen. But I was getting it together. And when she saw that I was getting it together, she wanted to do something of value. And so she did. She put money into me, in different areas to help, when I was wanting to go out on my own and start my own business. My father did the same, and there were things that I needed, when I had my first little building. And I tell you, my siblings contributed, okay, because they believed in what I was doing, so whereas one sibling put in cash and the other one gave me stuff, okay, so it was kind of a situation where that was our lasting legacy, because that initial building helped me to understand how to run a business. And I learned, and that was where I cut my teeth. I learned by doing. And in my learning by doing, I was able to begin to build everything there that I have built out in every other business that I've ever had. And so I have to share with you that to be able to put these things into action, you need to actually go back into your history and see what maybe have already been done by your family members and see how you can take some of those lessons and put them into play. And if you can't pull on anything from your family, your immediate family, go beyond that. What about your grandparents and great grandparents? And what about other people that are in your life that have become family? Are there lessons that you can pull on from them that will help you to have the impetus to move forward in what you're trying to do right now? So we got to understand, that as I stated earlier, in order for you to really be fluent in the use of money, we have got to make sure that we know how to speak its language. Okay. We have to understand, how do we perceive it, and what it is that could be causing a stress or a struggle. Sometimes we need to, change the way we view it so that we can, have a different feeling about money when we, are imagining it. Sometimes I may not have cash, and that could put me in a position where I could feel some kind of way, but I have cash potential. And so because I have cash potential, I don't ever feel any kind of way about not having cash, because I always know that I have something that I can convert, some knowledge, some intellectual property, or some type of gift or skill or ability that I can put into play that will bring cash to the table. And I want to help you to get that in your mind, that money is often the first financial concept we encounter. It's a tool, it's a medium of exchange and expression of value, but you have to understand what your relationship with money is. It is a source. And is it a source of stress or satisfaction for you? Is it a source of pleasure, or is it a source of indifference? Or is it just something that you utilize to get the other things that you might need? Okay. Because when you start putting so much, I want to use this word properly, and I want you to really understand onus You know, when you put all of the responsibility on the cash to do what you needed to do, and for whatever reason it does it, then it could cause you to have a false sense of identity. I need you to dial that back and understand that money is just the initial note, but wealth, on the other hand, it is the epitome of the continuum. Because when you are able to preserve that, then that puts you in a position so you can build legacy. And when you're able to build legacy, not just from the standpoint of, you know, having enough for your reserves, but having more so the ability to have the amount necessary to sow into your children and your children's children, then you are actually now making that symphony of value do what it was designed to do. Well, this has been Patience Rose with Co-working Live with Red Worldwide, and we have today begun on a journey where we are learning how to be fluent in financial manners, and how do we take that and move beyond where we are, you know, so that we can make sure that we can not just, you know, again, arrive, but thrive.